The Venice Hongwanji Buddhist Temple's Obon Festival in 2021 will be an online virtual celebration, just as it was for the first time last year in 2020 due to COVID-19. We hope to celebrate in person in 2022, but until then, the following 6 temple members have shared their memories and thoughts about our Obon here at the Venice Temple. Reverend Kory Quon is the current temple minister at Venice, and he will give a little history about what the Obon Festival celebrates and how it started.
The origin of Obon comes from the Ulambana Sutra. It's about Moggallana, or in Japanese Mokuren. He's known to be one of the greatest followers of Shakyamuni Buddha, the historical Buddha, and he has these great powers to see far distances. And in this case, he meditates and sees his mother in this hell realm, who's suffering. Now, he's distraught by this because his mother was a wonderful woman. So he goes to the Buddha and asks, how could this be and how did this happen? Well, the Buddha says, yes, your mother was a wonderful mother, but she was a terrible woman to everyone else. She treated everyone badly. And so through this, the Buddha explains that Moggallana or Mokuren has to do services to transfer merit to his mother to raise her state, but also right the wrongs that she had done. So to create a meal and offer it to the community or to those people around her that she had done these things to. So he does. He has a service and he offers the meal. After completing this, he meditates again, and then he sees that her state has changed for the better. And overjoyed by this, he dances for joy, and that's why sometimes you'll hear the Obon called Gathering of Joy, and we dance in the street even here. Now this all takes place on the 7th month and the 15th day of the year. So usually you'll find Obon here in the United States or here in the States throughout June, July, and August, because the ending is usually August 15th. Obon started for as far back as we know in Japan due to the filial piety or ancestor worship aspect of the Asian cultures. As it traveled to the United States, it actually took more growth in the Jodo Shinshu sect here in the United States, with the first Obon taking place in 1931 in San Francisco. Today, here in the United States, we still observe the basic elements of the Obon or Ulambana Sutra, right? What Buddha said, have services. We have our Obon service, and some even have and Hatsubon service, but some might have 2 services, Obon and Hatsubon. Hatsubon means first Obon service for those people that passed away from the month of June the previous year to June this year. And that's the way to have a little bit of closure, to respect those that have gone before us, and to recognize this life doesn't exist without those that have come before us. So then we still offer meals through food booths and things we call through the festival. Then the third element is the dancing. See, so we go out, and even though in Japan they might say that the spirits come, and in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism especially, we don't believe in those types of spirits. We say everyone becomes a Buddha, but we still recognize that this life is not possible without parents, grandparents, siblings, uncles, aunts, those past generations. So we dance for joy, and we say everyone should dance for joy because we're all part of this one community, and so we're in the same thought and same mind as everyone else. Through the years of Obon that I've participated in, the biggest thing that surprises me is that these are all hidden gems in the community, and that people come to our gates and stand in front and say, you know, I've lived here all my life and I never even realized there was a Buddhist temple, let alone a festival that celebrates life to the fullest through understanding of what we've all received through those around us. And to awaken us to that realization is a great gift that we can all take part in and cherish. So please come to the Venice Hongwanji Buddhist Temple, and I hope to see and meet each and every one of you over and over again. So thank you.
Dianne Kujubu Belli is a longtime temple member who first came to the temple as an 8-year-old Sunday school student. Since then, she has served as a Dharma school teacher, parent advisor for Sangha teens and junior YBA, director of Buddhist education, Fujinkai president, and temple president. She has attended at least 50 Obon festivals here at Venice.
When my brother and sister and I started to attend the Venice Temple, which was located on the Culver Boulevard property at the time, the temple was well established. So I wasn't there, my family wasn't present at the time that the first Obon was held. But I am sure that Reverend Masuoka and Mrs. Masuoka and their 7 children were foundational in beginning all the traditions here at Venice. I remember as a child that all the hapis that we wore, all the mothers had to sew themselves. In those days, everyone could sew. Everyone had a sewing machine and could sew. And I believe it was Shirley Inada's father, Mr. Waki, who hand-painted the kanji on the lapels for every single hapi. And the dads screen-printed the character on the back. So they were very special hapis. At Venice, and I think at all temples, the dancing has got to be the most popular and fun activity of the weekend. I particularly remember Venice as a group traveling to obons at other temples. We would wear our hapis, our Venice red and white hapis, line up in height order. And we would always have such a presence that everyone knew that we were there. I particularly relished the fact that Jun Masuoka, Reverend Masuoka's son, and people like Stacy Eno led the Venice line. And not only would they lead the Venice line at the, say, West LA Obon, they would then take liberties and snake through the circle. And at one point, I think they led our Venice group into even going clockwise, so against the line of dance of everybody else. But that's because we were Venice and we did it our way. Through the years, I think the basic framework for the Venice Obon has been the same. 2 days of glorious dancing and music, games, and delicious, delicious food. Through the years, the games have changed. Dough ball was a very, very popular game run by Dale Ito and all of his buddies. And while it's a gambling game, Dale and his buddies would allow the young children to participate. So our son and daughter loved playing dough ball at Venice. And Dale and his buddies were so generous, even if they didn't win, they would slide them some quarters. And so consequently, when our son and his buddies went over to West LA to play dough ball, while they were allowed to play dough ball, at West LA they played by the rules. And so if they didn't win, they didn't win any money. And they said, "What's with this game?" Venice is very well known for our mascot, Mame-chan. It's a picture of a little boy with a bowl haircut in a hapi. And while I don't know if it's true or not, I believe the urban legend is that it was designed by Ko Iseda. To further that urban legend, I believe that Ko modeled it after Craig Matsubayashi, Reverend Matsubayashi's first son. Because I've had the privilege and honor of being the MC of the Obon dances through the last several years, I'm particularly grateful for everyone who has made it possible for the dancing to occur. Not only the teachers, but the fellas were out there striping the street and putting up the traffic barricades. And sitting with me at the center of the circle, Koei Sera, Hisa Miya, Mas Nakamura. This Obon was built on the backs and their hard work of people like Mr. Hirokada Matsu. We call him Mr. Obon. For years and years, he chaired the Obon. He knew all the people to get the right permits. He was unfailingly cheerful. He charted out every detail. He is truly Mr. Obon.
Judy Hopfield started attending the temple in the early 1960s and has served as a Dharma school teacher and Girl Scout troop leader. She has also held leadership positions on the temple board, the Buddhist Education Committee, and the Buddhist Women's Association. She is currently one of the 2 Obon dance teachers here at Venice, as well as one of the 2 temple organists. She was asked how the selection of Obon dances is made for each year's Obon festival.
Venice is part of Southern District, 13 temples that make up Southern District, and Southern District is unique in that we select and practice all the same dances. So all the 13 temples are doing the same dances every year. In the early part of the year, we choose them as a committee, and then we practice them together, and then we teach them to our temple members. As far as attire is concerned for Obonodori, Obonodori is folk dancing, and so it's not a formal classical Japanese dance, so everybody's invited to participate in the dance. You don't have to be dressed in anything special. But if you'd like to dress in traditional attire, what's usually worn is a type of kimono called yukata, which is a cotton kimono, and that's usually good for wearing in the summertime since it's hot. And to tie the yukata, we use obi. This is an example. They can be in solid colors. This one has a double-sided. You could use either side. Sometimes they come in patterns. These are women's ones, and there's different ones for men and for children as well. Traditional footwear, this is an example of women's slippers. They're traditionally made of wood. There's different styles for men and women, for kids as well. Many women like to decorate their hair with these kind of ornaments. We have implements that we use for some of the dances. One of them is a towel like this, and it's called a tenugui. We also have what's called kachikachis, these bamboo clackers, and there's 2 that you hold in each hand, and they're played like this. This is an adult version. The kids use this round version, which is a little easier to play. A more recently used version of the kachikachi, it's not a version, but it's called naruko. And these are little clacker things. And you just hold them in your hands and shake them. And then last but not least, we have fans. Usually what's used in Obon dancing is the round fan called the uchiwa. And for some dances, there's a folding fan used. And it's can be used instead of the round fan if you'd like. But most of the time we use the uchiwa. As for the music in Bonodori, we have recorded music of the numbers, but we also have people that play both taiko and percussion instruments. The taiko is a traditional Japanese drum, and it's very important in not only enhancing the music, but in keeping the rhythm of the dancing. Some of the dance circles are very, very large, and so you can't always hear the music as well, so the drummer helps to keep time on it. There's also a percussionist that plays a bell in time to the music, and that helps as well. The taiko drummer typically stands on the yagura, so they're highly visible by the audience and the dancers, so that adds to the festivities.
Typically, who is invited to play the taiko drum?
It's at Venice. It's open to anybody who wants to play taiko. We usually get their names ahead of time. So our MC will announce their names, and then they're invited up to the Yagura to play a number. So we welcome everybody, and we have quite a variety of players, both from Venice and from outside. Okay, our practice sessions for our dances starts a few weeks prior to our festival. And here at Venice, we hold them in our parking lot outside in the evenings, 3 times a week. And Julia Ueda and I give the instructions. First, we have everybody do a slow run through while we instruct, and then we put on the music and everybody practices the dances. Our practice sessions prior to the festival are maybe about 6 or 7 sessions, and they're in the evenings for an hour and a half each. Typically at practices, we'll see anywhere from, I would say, 50 to 75 people, or maybe 100. It tends to get more and more crowded as we get closer to the festival, because people have to learn them before the festival. In the early days of the temple, I recall that most of the dance teachers were also Dharma school teachers. And I remember also that one in particular had trained in classical Japanese dancing, so you could really see the style of her dancing. So those are very vivid memories of my early days here at the temple.
Reverend George Matsubayashi first came to serve at the Venice Temple in 1965. He was named the first official resident minister at the Venice Temple in 1976 and continued until 1999. He is one of the very few remaining members who recall how the temple's Yagura was built and by whom.
The Yagura that we're using now is, I believe, built between 1965 and 1966. It was built at the driveway of the Mr. Sam Obana, who lived on Lucille Street in Culver City. I do not remember exactly how long it took, but it almost 3 months for sure. Every weekend, weekday, Mr. Obana worked hard with the help from Mr. Sig Tochioka and Mr. Ray Ishii, those active members of the ABBA charter members. Mr. K. Obana, younger brother of the Mr. Sam Obana, I remember that they went to Venice Hongwanji downtown Los Angeles Betsu-in to measure the size of the Yagura and then, the form of the Yagura. And so that Yagura that we have is almost the same size as the big Yagura at the Nishonganji downtown. And after completion of the constructing Yagura, I do remember I was one of them pushing with the other help, I'm sure Mr. Sam Obana, Mr. Sig Tochioka, Mr. Reishi, Mr. Hisa Miya also involved. And we pushed from the Lucille Street to the Inglewood Street, and then right turn and push it up all the way to the Braddock, and then brought left turn to the temple here. I do not know, I do not remember how we did it, but I do remember pushing hard. We never asked the police station or now permit to go through that, but I do remember just pushing it. Lucille Street, that's at Mr. Obana's house. From there to Venice Hongwanji, it's 1.5 miles, I would say. And the one of the son, Doug, remember that we used one of, or I don't know how many he had the skateboard, but he remembered that we used his skateboard to put underneath and then push it, all the way. Mr. James Maeda, who's been doing a lot of work for our temples in construction and stuff like that, he was very good and handy, just like Mr. Sam Obana. So he put the big wheels rather than small wheel, and also he put the the ladder, steps up on the stage, and then put the nice and strong the floor on the stage, yeah, so that we don't have to worry about people, how many people go up on the stage. But he did quite a bit. A couple years ago, Mr. Joe Belli, I wasn't here to see what was done, but according to the city regulation, the stage floor, Yagura floor, was a little too big or too high. So Mr. Joe Belli led the group to do the floor on the Yagura. So I think that was the reason. And then Mr. Joe Belli put the side like you have now, the red painted there. So those are the things that Mr. Joe Belli led the group. You know, originally in Japan, Yagura stage is for the singer, the one that sing the song of the Obon dance. The drummer usually go around the Yagura on the ground. And then singer is the one originally in our area, Shimane, Japan, we put the umbrella on top. And then we say, Arya sa korya sa de kono ka sa morota iyoya se kora se. You know, up and down umbrella, using umbrella like that, and they sing. So on the stage, one singer, maybe the shamisen staff or something, that's only, the drum was too big. So that most of the place in Japan, taiko is 3 or 4 taikos on the ground level. Usually the Yagura does not have any roof, because umbrella becomes the, you know, the in place of the roof, yeah? So that we don't have any roof, but it's open air, and then lots of decoration on that. Now here at the Venice Hongwanji, you put the name of those who passed away during the Obon, last year Obon till this one we call Hatsubon, first Obon memorial, in memory of those who passed away since last Obon till this Obon. We put the Buddhist name at the Venice Hongwanji. You put each family put the names of the deceased. A minister gonna put it on, and then put it around the Yagura. Every time I see the Yagura, I can't help but remember the time that people really worked hard. Yeah, so it's the spirit of the Obon. It's always feel the people's their heart in there. No?
I've been coming to Obon probably since I was a baby, so about 40 years, and I think I've missed a few in between, but somewhere around there.
Cindy Matsubayashi is a younger temple member who participated in all the youth organizations at the temple. Her mother and father were from long-established temple families, the Inos and the Nakagiris. Currently, Cindy is a Girl Scout troop leader at the temple. Cindy, what was the most fun part of Obon for you as a child?
I think what was fun at Obon changes. When I was little, I think I really liked just playing the games. And then as we got a little older, maybe like upper elementary school, I think I started to enjoy just having a little bit of freedom, because it was a safe place, right, for our parents to just give us some money, let us go run around, you go get some food, you go play some games, but you kind of got to be on your own a little bit. And then, you know, middle school and high school, it's just a fun place to see friends. So I think kind of changed over the years. My kids are 7 and 10 right now, and they enjoy playing the games. They get all the little toys and bring them back home and play with them and collect them. And I think it's a place that they can hang out with their friends and not worry about us hovering too much. So I think in that sense, they're enjoying it very similarly to the way I did. So last year, since there was a virtual Obon, we kind of toyed with the idea of doing something different, and we came across this scavenger hunt idea. So we trialed it with a few of our friends, some of the Sangha Initiative members, and it seemed to be a good idea. People seemed to have fun, so we went ahead and we organized that, and I think about 20 teams participated. I think there were about 200 people. And we're going to try to do it again this year. So when we were designing the challenges for the scavenger hunt, we wanted it to be intergenerational. So we wanted the challenges to, we wanted them to be funny, silly, creative, but we also wanted there to be a reason for the younger kids to go talk to the older generation. So a lot of the pictures, you had to find somebody that was a grandparent or a family member or somebody older or younger than you. We tried to include as many Obon themes and as many people of different generations as possible.
Is there anything you would change about our Obon?
I don't think anything about the Obon needs to change. I like that there are different food options. I don't know that the food options need to stay exactly the same, but as long as there's food and something fun to do, I don't think anything needs to change. Hopefully, we can continue to dance in the street. I think that's kind of a unique thing about our Obon. I think one of the fun things about Obon is not knowing who you're going to see here. So sometimes you see family members you haven't seen in a while. Sometimes you see high school friends that you haven't seen in a while. And it's also fun to see all of those people you used to do junior YBA with coming back with their families and seeing everyone. I think my favorite Obon dance is 1+1. That's the most fun. But I do have to say Bon Odori is probably the most meaningful. We would always have to stop what we were doing and go over. My mom and grandma would always make us stop and go do that last dance no matter what you were doing.
Tom Yamaguchi started coming to the Venice Temple in 1987. He has led Cub Scout Pack 79 as Cub Master, been parent advisor to the Sangha Teens and Junior YBA, been the Adult Buddhist Association president, and the temple president. Currently, he is the main organizer for the Venice Temple Obon.
But I started mentoring under Mr. Hiro Kadomatsu to help chair and organize the Obon. It must have started probably about 4 to 5, maybe more years ago.
How much planning goes into preparing for an Obon?
So it takes almost a year in planning. We do a debriefing of what worked, what didn't work for the current Obon, and try to adapt and change things to meet our needs for the future.
How many people are needed to set up and run the Venice Temple Obon?
Gosh, it takes a community. I won't say it takes hundreds, but overall, to have the complete Obon take place with the different events, it has to be greater than 100 people doing their part, whether it's an organization, preparing foods, helping organize it. I mean, it takes many people to make it happen.
How has our Obon changed over the years?
Well, if we go back 4 or 5 years, with the different changes going on, it's more with health regulations and then public safety regulations. A lot of things were happening outside the temple in different areas, all the way from London to Oakland, California. And so fire safety and safety of the people that attend become a primary concern. More recently, with COVID-19, last year the Obon was held primarily on Zoom or virtual. So we had the different events. We didn't have our normal Obon food booths and food preparation. But this year, because things are changing at a rapid pace but a slow pace, we are doing the Obon virtually again this year, 2021.
What things should never change about our Venice Obon?
I think primary would be understanding the religious aspect of the Obon. That is primarily, to me, the dancing portion. Without the dancing, celebration, and appreciation of what it means, it'd be just something that's missing. The other things of the booths where you have the games or the food, to me that's more of a cultural thing where we prepare things to help and share with others what we enjoy and trying to share with the community around us. For a temple that is as small as it is huge. The outreach goes further than just people who live locally. It goes out to, I would say, even the greater Los Angeles area, if not further. You know, once you're part of something, you're always part of something. So even though you may move away, you still, there are people that will come back primarily just for the Obon. They may travel the 100 or 200 miles just for being here at our particular Obon. They just feel a part of it.
Thank you, Reverend Quon, Reverend Matsubayashi, Dianne, Judy, Cindy, and Tom for your thoughts and memories of our Venice Obon Festival. We're looking forward to celebrating with you in person next year, 2022.